Training is done. The loss converged. You've got a LoRa adapter sitting in a checkpoint directory and a base model next to it. And now what? Most fine-tuning tutorials end exactly here, but getting your fine-tuned model into a real inference call with the right generation parameters in a way that's safe and reproducible is a whole second act that nobody covers. Welcome back to the fine-tuning series. Today we go all the way from a saved adapter to a live production-ready inference call. We'll cover merging a LoRa adapter back into the base weights, how the Hugging Face pipeline and TextGenerationPipeline APIs work, the GenerationConfig object and how it owns your model's decoding behavior, and then the individual parameters that matter most: temperature, top P, top K, repetition penalty, stopping criteria, and safety filters. Before touching the pipeline API, you need to decide how your fine-tuned weights actually live at inference time, and there are two distinct paths. Option A is merge and unload. You fold the LoRa matrices B and A back into the base weights permanently, using merge and unload. The result is a plain Hugging Face model checkpoint, no PEFT dependency at inference time. Standard tooling works on it. It's the right choice for a stable production deployment. Save it with Save Pre-trained, and it looks identical to any other pre-trained model. Option B is loading the base model and the adapter separately at runtime. The adapter stays hot swappable. You can disable it with a context manager and instantly fall back to the base model without reloading anything. This is the right choice when you're serving multiple fine-tunes off one base model, or when you want to A/B test the fine-tuned model against the base, which connects directly to the shadow mode logging. For a single stable production deployment, merge and unload. For flexibility and multi-adapter serving, keep them separate. Now that the model's loaded, the Hugging Face inference entry point is the pipeline API, specifically text generation pipeline for text generation, though most of the time you reach it through the pipeline convenience factory. The pipeline factory takes a task string, text generation in our case, a model path, a tokenizer path, D-type, and device placement, and returns a fully configured text generation pipeline. It's one line, it downloads everything if you pass a hub name, and it's what most tutorials show. Text generation pipeline direct instantiation is for when you already have the model object loaded, which is exactly our situation after merge and unload, or when you need to keep the model in memory for other uses alongside inference. You pass the model and tokenizer directly. Both give you the identical call interface and generation machinery underneath. The difference is construction only. Prefer the factory for exploration, prefer the direct form when you're wiring the pipeline into a larger serving stack. Let's make an actual call. The pipeline accepts chat-formatted message lists directly, a list of role content dicts, and applies the model's chat template internally, which is exactly what you want for an instruction-tuned fine-tune. Two things to know before you call it. First, set pad token explicitly if it's missing. Most fine-tuned causal language models don't have pad token set by default. It gets complicated when the pipeline tries to pad a bunch of different length inputs, and leaving it unset leads to subtle, hard-to-diagnose output differences. The quick fix: set it to EOS token if nothing else is set. Second, use return full text equals false. With true, the default, the output includes the full prompt plus the generation. With false, you get only the newly generated tokens, which is almost always what you want for instruction-following models. The return value is a list of dicts. For a chat-formatted input, the generated text lives at output 0, generated text -1, content, the last message in the conversation list, which is the assistant's reply. Every time you call model.generate or the pipeline, there's a GenerationConfig object driving the decoding. The question is whether it's yours, with intentional values, or a default you've never looked at. GenerationConfig stores all decoding parameters in one object that can be saved as generation.config.json right next to your model weights. When you load the model later, Hugging Face picks that config up automatically, which means your generation behavior is reproducible without anyone having to remember to pass the right KW args at every call site. Any keyword argument you pass directly to pipe or model.generate overrides the config for that single call only. The stored config is unchanged. Use GenerationConfig to set your production defaults. Use per call KWArgs to override for specific cases. Save it with gen.config.savePretrained, pointing at the same directory as your model weights. That's it. From now on, any code that loads this model gets your defaults for free. 3 parameters that all touch the same stage of decoding: how you sample from the probability distribution for the next token. Temperature divides every logit by T before softmax. Small t sharpens the distribution. The model becomes more deterministic and conservative. Large T flattens it. The model draws from a wider range of tokens, which increases creativity and variance, but also hallucinations. Temperature near 0 is greedy. Temperature of 0.7 is a common starting point for task-focused generation. Anything at or above 1.5 tends to produce repetitive or nonsensical text. Critical detail: if do sample is false, greedy decoding, temperature and top P are completely ignored. This is a very common invisible bug. Someone switches do sample to false for reproducibility and wonders why their carefully chosen temperature stopped doing anything. Top P, or nucleus sampling, keeps the smallest set of tokens whose cumulative probability reaches the threshold P. At 0.9, you're keeping the most likely tokens that together cover 90% of the probability mass, and that set size adapts automatically at every step, based on how concentrated the model's distribution is. Top K keeps a fixed number of candidates, regardless, which is cruder. Prefer top P in production. Most configs use 0.9 and leave top K unset. 2 more parameters worth understanding before we get to stopping criteria. Repetition penalty divides the logit of any token that's already appeared in the generated text. Values above 1.0 make the model less likely to repeat itself. The useful range is around 1.1 to 1.3, enough to break repetition loops without distorting the vocabulary too aggressively. Above 1.5, it can start hurting quality by penalizing tokens that were perfectly appropriate to use again, like a proper noun in a factual answer, because the penalty applies globally to everything generated so far. For length, always use max new tokens rather than max length. Max length caps the number of newly generated tokens, independent of prompt length. Max length caps the total of prompt plus output, which means if your prompt is long, max length silently truncates generation before a single token is emitted, and you'll get mysteriously short outputs with no error. Set max new tokens based on the maximum answer length you want. Use min new tokens only when you have a specific reason to prevent the model cutting an answer short. Use it carefully because it can force the model to pad when it already has a complete answer.
Stopping criteria control how the model decides it's done, separate from the max new tokens cap. The default stopping condition is the EOS token. When the model generates EOS token ID, generation halts. Make sure EOS token ID is set in your generation config. For most fine-tuned instruction models it is, but it's worth checking. Beyond the EOS token, you can pass a stopping criteria list with custom criteria objects. Each criterion is a class that receives the generated input IDs so far and the current scores, and returns true to halt or false to continue. The stop string criterion on the left encodes a sentinel string, like a closing XML tag or a format delimiter the model was trained to output, and halts when the last generated tokens match it. Custom criteria can do anything: stop after a certain regex match, stop after n function calls in an agentic pipeline, or trigger a classifier against the generated text so far. Stopping criteria are a full escape hatch from the fixed max new token ceiling. Use them whenever you have a semantic stopping condition that a token count can't express. One more inference pattern worth knowing before safety filters: streaming. By default, model.generate blocks until the entire completion is ready. For a 512 token response at 30 tokens per second, that's 17 seconds of silence from the user's perspective before anything appears.
Text iterator streamer decouples generation from decoding. You run generate in a background thread with the streamer as a hook, and your main thread iterates over the streamer to receive decoded text chunks as each token is produced. The practical effect on user experience is significant. Perceived latency collapses to the time to first token, even though actual total generation time is unchanged. In a fast API server, yield each chunk inside an async generator and return it as a server-sent event stream. Skip prompt and skip special tokens eliminate the input echo and special tokens from the streamed output, almost always what you want for a clean assistant response. Safety filtering in a production inference pipeline comes in two independent layers, and you need both. Layer 1 is input screening. Run a lightweight classifier against the incoming user prompt before you ever call the generator. Tools like Meta's Llama Guard or a custom classifier fine-tuned on your own policy violation taxonomy return a safe or unsafe label in milliseconds. If the input is unsafe, return a refusal immediately, no generation cost incurred. Layer 2 is output screening. Run the same type of classifier on the completed response before it's returned to the caller. This catches two things Layer 1 misses: jailbreaks that use a technically safe prompt to steer the model toward an unsafe completion, and outputs that are unsafe in context, even when neither the prompt nor the response would individually trigger a classifier. Never filter on output alone. Unsafe prompts that happen to produce benign-looking text still expose your pipeline to abuse. And never filter on input alone. A well-designed adversarial prompt will eventually slip through. Run both, log classifier decisions and scores, and treat that log as the safety monitoring signal. A spike in Layer 2 filter rate is exactly the kind of anomaly that should trigger an alert. Here's the complete inference function, every piece from this video wired together in production-ready form. It runs in 4 stages. First, input safety check. If the prompt fails the guard classifier, return a refusal immediately before incurring generation cost. Second, call the pipeline with the optional per-call config override on top of the GenerationConfig defaults. Third, output safety check on the completed reply. If it fails, return the refusal and log it. Fourth, log the request, response, and GenerationConfig for the A/B monitoring pipeline. This function is intentionally a thin wrapper. The heavy lifting is in the pipeline and GenerationConfig you've already configured. Keeping it this thin means you can swap in the streaming version, add a stopping criteria, or change your guard model without touching the rest of the serving stack. 8 takeaways. 1. Merge and unload for a stable single model production deployment. Keep the adapter separate for multi-fine-tune serving or easy A/B against the base model. 2. Pipeline and TextGenerationPipeline are the same class. Use the factory when you want convenience, use the direct form when the model is already loaded. 3. Save a GenerationConfig next to your weights. Decoding defaults should be version-controlled and reproducible, not reconstructed from memory at every call site. 4. Do sample equals false silently ignores temperature and top P. Check this first when your sampling parameters seem to have stopped working. 5. Prefer top P over top K. Nucleus sampling adapts to the model's confidence per step. Top K doesn't. 6. Use max new tokens, not max length. Max length silently truncates long prompts before generating a single output token. 7. Stopping criteria are your semantic stop condition. Use them for structured output sentinels, tool call counts, or any stopping logic a token count can't express. 8. Safety filters belong on both input and output. Input only misses adversarial completions, and output only misses harmful prompt patterns. That's the full inference path. Merge or load the adapter, set up the pipeline, version control your generation defaults in a GenerationConfig, control sampling with temperature and top P, stop on a semantic signal rather than just a token count, stream for UX, and wrap both ends in safety filters.
Your action item: take the fine-tuned model you've been training in this series and run it through this full path. Merge, save a generation config, make one call with the pipeline, and verify the output is what you expect before building anything on top of it. That 5-minute sanity check has saved me from many confusing debugging sessions. Hugging Face docs for GenerationConfig, TextGenerationPipeline, Text Iterator Streamer, and stopping criteria are among the best written API references in the ecosystem. Like the video if this covered the part of the fine-tuning workflow your other sources skipped, subscribe for the rest of the series, and drop a comment with whichever generation parameter caused you the most confusion the first time you hit Inference. Configure generation deliberately, filter both ends. See you in the next one.